let's look at the 3 best opportunities of May. What May did provide was a little bit more clarity on the whole US-Iran theme. We actually had progression rather than what we saw in April, which was a lot of, comment and counter comment where we still didn't really know how we were going to get to a conclusion of this. May gives us a little bit more clarity. We got some clearer kind of movement forward in the narrative and some clear trades on the back of that. But also, US-Iran doesn't dominate everything. The impact of that and the response elsewhere also is very tradable. So let's go and have a little look. First up, what days were the big ones? 6th, 20th and 22nd were the 3 real big ones. There was a lot of very, very good days in this, and the really good days were marginally better than a lot of the other good days, if you will. So the 6th of May, this was a US-Iran conflict, was the sort of theme. And again on the 20th, a lot of the trade here was around the story about getting to the end of the war. We have on the 6th a 1-page memo, the 1-page memo being the beginning of some sort of text to get behind to end the war. This is something you could trade across all markets. This could have been done in oil, S&P, stocks, bonds, BTPs. You could do it in treasuries. There was a lot of different areas that this could have been traded. This narrative then continues, and on the 20th, we then get, rather than just a 1-page memo, we get a story that there is a finalizing of an agreement, and that Donald Trump even comes out himself and says we are in the final stages of talks. A lot of this was premised around the negotiating team or the facilitating team from Pakistan actually traveling to go and get these things signed. And that sort of idea of, well, if they travel, this is now going ahead, was a big part of that trade. Final one was 22nd of May. If you got too focused just on looking at oil and the sort of equity markets on this, you miss the fact that obviously inflation is going higher. Central banks may need to react to this. And one of the big comments that we got was Waller, who is a known dove, someone who has called for rate cuts, comes out and says, not going to call for a change in the rate. So that's significant because now somebody who has very vocally called for rate cuts has said, no more. We're not calling for that anymore. That's a big deal. And it's being aware of the potential for that kind of comment simply because of what has gone on in terms of oil prices and the knock-on in terms of inflation. So let's go have a look at this first comment. What we've got here then is the initial part of the story, which was the sources comment, closing in on a 1-page memo to end the war. This puts in a pretty hefty down move. Oil starts off around about the mid-90s, drops, and then continues and continues and continues throughout the day. That was the real key feature of it, is recognizing the significance of this move. Even though later on in the day, Trump sort of adds a bit of doubt to it. But the initial part of the move, this looks like we now have a deal. And this is what causes oil to drop about 1,000 ticks, about 10, well, over 1,000. It drops about $12 over the course of about 2 to 3 hours. Now, what you've got to remember then is when Trump's comment happens, where he suggests that if they agree, Operation Epic Fury will end, but if they don't, the bombing will start again at a much higher level. On the face of it, that's nothing we don't already know. You would assume that the operation would end if they agree to the deal, and you would also assume that it would continue if they don't. This isn't new, but this is about recognizing what has happened. Because of the significance of that drop, anything that's not completely confirming it, anything that casts even the slightest doubt is good reason. Imagine you're short from $95, good reason to then get out, take your profit. And this creates this kind of rush of people running to get out of positions, bank their profits. Also, people taking advantage of that and catching some of that very straight line move off the lows. The majority of the performance did come early on. The majority of the performance did come from that very, very first move. That first move drops you around about $3. Now, these are 5-second charts. So what we've got here at the top, we've got an oil chart. This is on a 5 seconds. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. 45 seconds to drop nearly 300 ticks, or just over 300. Really significant move. But as you saw on that previous chart, that takes you down to around 95. If we go back a step and go and actually have a look at that prior chart, 95 is a reasonably minor part of this. And it does then continue onwards and onwards and onwards throughout the day. One of the other things that is a big feature of this recent narrative is dealing with such a fast move. You're inevitably going to be chasing this. The first part of the move drops around about 130 ticks in 5 seconds. So by the time you've realistically read the story, you're getting in a long, long way down. This is a big risk in terms of the amount the market can bounce. This is why people look up to alternative places like Euro stocks, places like the S&P, or even looking at markets like Italian BTPs. These are markets that don't explode on these types of news, but they will continue onwards. You look at how steady the continuation is here. There's no big pullbacks, there's no stalling out. Instead, for other markets, it's nice, steady continuation. So make sure you think about what market you are going to trade on these types of events. Really, really key whenever you're learning narrative is not to simply look at the most obvious thing to trade. It's one of the things we coach all of our traders to do. Look at your options, look at where you could trade that. You want to know more about training that we do, links below. Come look at the website, come join a webinar. In terms of the 20th of May, this is another good example of appreciating the way that people react. So what we have here is essentially an improving story. We have a story that grows throughout the day. We have 26 vessels have passed through the Strait of Hormuz in 24 hours. Not massive numbers, but positive to hear. Then this was the one where we had the Pakistani army chief to visit Iran tomorrow to announce the achievement of a final draft agreement. And then Trump follows this up later that they are in the final stages of talks. They're going to see what happens, but they are in the final stages of talks. He does not sort of caveat this in the same way as the previous. So what we've got then is a steadily improving story. But there's a very distinct difference between the reaction to this comment and this comment. What you've got to remember is at this point, when Trump speaks, an hour after the announcement of the Pakistani army chief traveling to Iran, at this point, everybody's switched on. Everybody wants to know what Trump's going to say about this. So if you look at the way they react, this is the first comment. You can look at oil, you can look at Euro stocks, you can look at S&P, treasuries. They move. This is 5-second charts again. They get moving, but they're not unbelievably quick. And within the first 10 seconds, yes, you've got move, and then the movement continues onwards. This is because this was a new part of the story. This is new information. Whereas when you get confirmation or additional info, the reaction is so much quicker. Remember, as I say, everybody was switched on. Everybody was waiting to see what the comment came. And as a result of that, as soon as any comment hits, people are straight to it. This means that the moves are much quicker. They don't sustain for so long. Most of this move is done in 20 seconds. Same story with S&P, Euro stocks, treasuries, things like the Bund. That was it in 20 seconds. And it's all because of the fact that everyone's so switched on to it. So make sure you do appreciate whether you are trading a piece of news that other people are yet to get involved in, or whether you're trading something where everyone is totally switched on. Final area that a lot of people weren't necessarily involved in is the central bank side of things. A very underappreciated area of trading here. But what we had was Waller. Now, if you follow central banks, and again, key part of any training that we do, you have to understand central bank pricing and also central bank speakers. Waller has many times called for a rate cut. In light of the inflation increase because of the oil price rise, Waller, you would still expect, may call for a rate cut. The fact that he explicitly comes out and says, do not expect to support a change in policy rate in the near term, that takes away the dovishness. He also supports removing the easing bias, the reference in the statement to suggesting the next move might be a cut. So in doing that, you then get this very clear opportunity in the euro or in treasuries. What's also important to recognize here is these moves don't have to be enormous. This is the first hour after the move. It's not a spectacularly big move, particularly in the euro. But in the treasuries, it's a reasonable move. Where the big opportunity here is appreciating the size that you can trade. Here you hit treasuries, you can hit hundreds and hundreds of lots. You don't have to take it many ticks to be able to extract a fair bit out of this. You take it onto a 1 minute chart. These moves are over relatively quickly in things like the euro or in the treasuries. But the size of movement that you can get based on the amount of size that you could trade is still very, very significant. This move here is 20 prices, which is not massive, but 20 prices on 100 lots, on 200 lots, on more than that, still is a very, very significant move. So make sure that you're aware of the sort of the functionality of treasury markets. It's not all about just chasing the biggest tick move. Sometimes subtleties in markets that are very clearly driven by these kind of comments is where the real big opportunities can lie.